Travis Wingood, so have to make sure to cut that part out. So, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has committed a crime, at least one crime, against every single Mormon. And those of you who are ex-Mormons, you know the crime. That's partly why you left. And with what YouTube chose to conspire with the church against me with, in shutting down TWG for another conference and for the election that's going to be crucial in American history, even though it's a midterm. They chose not to report the crime that they were asked to do to the feds. It's a cyber crime that they committed against me. This is what the church does to people. They ask them to commit crimes on their behalf. It's the law of sacrifice. Willing to sacrifice your lives if necessary in sustaining and defending the church. Well, why would the church need to be sustained and defended? Because they're committing crimes. It needs to be kept a secret when it used to have the penalty of death. Oh, but we don't do that anymore, Travis. We don't kill ourselves now. Yeah, and what's that done to the youth of Utah? Suicide's on the rise. And so, you see the 1984 quote all over tracks. If you see something, say something. If you don't know 1984, it's all about Big Brother and narking on people, whether they're committing a crime or not. And so do you not know the difference between a crime and a rule that gets broken? You know, it's a crime to murder, obviously, or steal, but it's not a crime if we in the shelter, for example, bring food up to the second level. They're going to tell us, take that back downstairs and eat it, but it's not a crime. But it's amazing, as I've grown up, as a little kid, you have kids wanting to commit a crime, and they're asking you to be silent about it, not to narc on them, not to tattle or whatever the word was back then. But like I said, each and every one of you at some point or another has had the church confront you to commit a crime for them, or they forced you to commit a crime, whether you wanted to or not, whether you knew that was a crime or not. And rather than going over all of the crimes in my life that the church, members of the church, have wanted me to do, FBI tip line. Something in your eyes. Yeah. You got to agree. And so, this is for crimes, guys. And they got different ones. If it's regarding internet-based fraud, you go to ic3.gov. It's got a link there for you. As I have the counterclaim case still, all my complaints of crime that YouTube has been doing towards me and other things that have been going on, the Attorney General, I'm pretty sure, I hope it better, because it's the law that they're supposed to, he gets all of my filings as a result. And probably delays it for months more. But the tithing, I keep trying to tell you guys, for the church, it is not a donation. For Catholics, yes, it's a donation. You give, and you don't even have to do 10%. You can give whatever you want to the Catholic Church, and they'll count it. You know, it's only the Mormon Church that has the specific, you must pay, once you become a member, 10% of your money, your wages. And that's not, as the scripture says, it's supposed to be 10% of your interest annually, which we don't own businesses, we're flipping burgers. And so, we're slaves in the economy. We're not able to have interest. That's for people who own businesses. And so when I worked at Blockbuster Video, for example, I was in charge of the paperwork, and I was able to see if the business was able to pull out of the negative and get into the positive. The positive shows the interest that Blockbuster had made after paying off the wages and the other financial expenses. And so they purposely deceive us, and they tell us it's from Malachi, therefore it's from God. But that's a lie, because it's supposed to be for food, for the poor. That's what a storehouse means. And it's not used for that. They had the bishops tell people they're now changing it to an interrogation. But the settlement at the end of the year, it's now called an interrogation now, probably. I just did that the other week when they came out with that. But yeah, I mean, James Huntsman, a billionaire, and he takes him to court and calls it a donation, and he wonders why he lost. Dear God, it's just, no. And because it's forced, and because the money is being laundered, as the whistleblower informed us, it's part of a protection racket. The protection racket is involved under RICO. That's what they did in the 70s to take down the crime organizations, the mafias and such. And when you understand that that's what they've done to you, then you understand that you need to report it. You need to tell the feds. It is not a donation. You are being forced to pay. And what do we call it in the church? Fire insurance. And insurance is a gambling institution in which you invest with no guarantee of a return on your investment. Hinckley gave that over the pulpit of conference. And yet, despite that, I still get Mormons commenting, I'm proud to pay tithing and I would pay more if they'd let me. Well, no, you're committing a crime and getting the church in trouble for the crime as well. Unfortunately, nobody's reporting this other than me. And so we need lots more people coming out, submitting their payment of tithing to the FBI, saying this is what they've taken from me. And we all know what happens when we don't pay. You know, yeah, you might have a lax bishop who lets you get a slide for it, but for the most part, you have to pay in order to get a calling in the church, to advance in priesthood rank, advance in office, to go to the temple. And it's used as an extortion threat for your afterlife, because you can't go to the highest degree of the celestial kingdom unless you pay a full tithe and be polygamously married. Yeah, isn't that great? It's not enough that we have to commit the crime of polygamy in the afterlife. But now we have to pay the protection racket money too. And so the money is what's called a reparation to the Mormon Jesus. It's atonement money. And I don't think any Mormon knew that, but that's exactly what it is. And so, yeah, everybody who's been in the church, who's not in the church, all of you should be going to tips.fbi.gov. And then they'll have you make sure that it's a real situation, that you haven't done it before. And if it's a real emergency, call 911. And then you just go to next. And then they ask you all these questions. And you fill them out. Don't worry about showing who you are and giving your address and your information. They need that information, because when they go and check the membership records of the church, they will find your name and sure enough confirm, and thus they got a crime. So that's all you got to do. It's just that simple. And then the main FBI headquarters will see that you're from Utah, and they'll funnel it to the Utah branch, and the Utah branch will quash it, and nothing will be done about it. However, if you do it in another state, I think you'll get better results. Possibly in California. I'm a little disappointed with James Huntsman there on that one. He had the perfect opportunity, and he blew it. Not in Utah. He was in California. A judge that really didn't know about the church, probably heard about Proposition 8 in California, but nope, blew it. And so that's everyone in the church should be reporting and out of the church who's been Mormon at some point or another. Every single one of you. tips.fbi.gov. Fill that out. Tell them that you've been forced to pay and that you've been threatened with your afterlife, and etc., etc. Stick to the facts. Don't get emotional. Don't put your feelings in there. Don't bear testimony, especially. Dear God, just state the facts of the crimes that were committed against you, that you were forced to pay. The other one is missionaries. Yeah. You familiar with a pyramid scam? They call it multi-level marketing now so that they don't get in trouble with law. But Utah has the church. So it's okay to start a business here in Utah, because nobody will do anything for it, because if they do, then they'll have to take down the church with them. Yeah, because it's a criminal operation. It's where you have the president of the company, and they can have several people there at the top, like a board of directors. But you can have things sold in a pyramid scam, but if there is any amount of recruitment for which the recruit has to pay for a kit or just pay for membership, and that trickles up the pyramid, it's a pyramid scam. And the reason for that is that a single company cannot have indefinite sources of income. There's a limited number of people and a limited number of finances that a individual can spend at the company. And so eventually the recruits will run dry. Can't get any more. That's when they take the money and run. Leave everybody else in the pyramid without. That's why it's criminal. Is because it cannot be a perpetual thing. Now, Avon, for example, is a pyramid scam, but they've developed products to keep them sustained. So if they don't get recruits for a certain period of years, they're still fine because they still get people buying their products. But other companies that pretty much only have a few items, or items that are purposely expensive, so that people think of, hey, why sell the products that are nobody's going to want to buy if I can get my friends and family to join, and then I get a cut of it as it trickles up the pyramid. And so we go on missions. We're forced to pay the tithing, the protection racket. Then after we pay the protection racket, we then have permission, approval, to serve a mission. We have to be worthy. We have to practice polygamy, law of chastity. But as an 18 and 19-year-old, but if all that, it's a tradition in the church. And so what do? You get approved, and it says where you're going in the world, and then your mission president contacts you and gives you the list of things you need to buy. The kit. Yeah, you have to buy the kit in order to go on the mission. The church doesn't pay for it. The church gets discounts for plane fare, but you pay for it. Now, there's conditions where they have another source of income for donation to the missionary fund, where they take 10% and invest it in an LLC company similar to Ensign Peak Advisors for tithing, and they invest it in the stock market, and nobody ever sees the light of day of that, as the interest gets laundered into an offshore account with the tithing offshore account for their interest. So, for example, after I filed on Monday morning, we had a drop of 600 points on the stock market. Yeah, it's called a panic sell. And then when they got my filing on Friday, panic sell of over 1,000. Yep. That's exactly where they put that money, because Ensign Peak Advisors won't have it. It's gone. Where did it go? So yeah, they've got offshore accounts. We know this because Australia, the press out there, found out that the church was not following the law for their finances, and indicated that there was offshore accounts that were involved. And so if it's involved in Australia, it's involved in America, and it's involved in Europe, and etc., etc. Every single source of income. And so not only do we have to pay for the kit, what are we now doing? We're recruiting. We're recruiting converts to join the church and do what? Pay to play. Pyramid scheme. By definition. You can call it a multi-level marketing scam if you want. That's okay. We know it's a crime. And so, yes, every single person who's been in the church, who's had a son or daughter that served missions, or you yourself serve missions, tips.fbi.gov, pyramid scam. And go over exactly what I did. If you need to refer to the definition of it as you write about it, fine. But that's what you're doing. You have to pay the church so that you then can go, and you have to pay to go, and then you recruit people who pay the church. And the cycle continues. This is a criminal organization. This is how Tony Soprano ran his business. If only he knew to get into religion rather than sanitation. And so those are the most common crimes that the church is involved with, and they're financial. And so then you get the sex abuse. And the church is getting away with that atrocity. But again, we're seeing people try it to report it, but yeah, you can't be sexually abused in this church. And abuse is not harassment, and harassment is not teasing, and teasing is not innocent speech. If I were to tell a woman she looks nice today, I'm not sexually harassing her. If I say, hey, that ass looks fine, now I'm sexually harassing her. Unless we have an inside understanding where she's okay with it and I know she's going to be okay with it, etc. But that's complicated. And there are women out there who will trick you into pulling that stunt and then using it against you to trap you and to get you in trouble. So beware of the evil woman. And so, yeah, and then with my situation, the church has approached people who's affiliated in my life, asking them to commit a crime against me. And I've told you, those who fail get punished. They lose their job, for example. They get transferred to a worse job. They get financially punished in some form or fashion. But those who succeed with the assignment that they were given, I've seen them get promotions and raises and new cars. And, yep. More hours. And so, yeah, they know that you're hurting for money, or that there's something that you need in life, and they come to you asking you to commit the crime against me, and they say, hey, we can help you out with this if you do us a favor, though. That's a crime. See, a crime is when you deprive someone of life, liberty, or property. It's not complicated. You need to report it to the police or the FBI, depending on the level of severity of the crime. Somebody's asking you to destroy a person's life. Yeah, that's attempted murder. That's a federal crime. You can go straight to the FBI. tips.fbi.gov. You need the evidence. You need to get the documents. Say, for me, I got the receipts. The financial receipts that the church paid people to destroy my life. And still, I'm having to wait months getting rejected by the federal court here in Utah because they're all Mormon and refuse to recuse themselves. But then who's supposed to do it after they all recuse themselves? So, yeah, but isn't it interesting? I tried Google searching that. What if every single judge on the bench is forced to recuse themselves from a case? Where does the case go? It can't be dropped because the First Amendment says I have to be allowed to petition. And if I'm not allowed to petition, I'm being denied my First Amendment right. And so does it escalate up the chain, or does it go to another state? So I can't find that answer. I guess it's never happened. There's no precedent for it until me. And so, yeah, as I've been telling you, the church is involved with serious crimes. Sedition, espionage, treason, RICO, assassination attempts, financial crimes and frauds, frauding the IRS, the whistleblower report. And so on YouTube, cyber terrorism. So don't let them destroy your life, because once they come to you, your life is over. You have no choice but to report it to the authorities, because if you do it, you're guilty of the crime. The cops could come at you anytime and get you in trouble. If you say no, the church will destroy you anyway and punish you for not doing them a favor, though. I'm betting that's why James Hamula was excommunicated, because the church came to him and says, do us a favor, though, and he said no. So he said, well, you can't be a member then, you have to leave. I'm betting that's what it was, because the church said it wasn't for apostasy, and the family said it wasn't for sin. And so he was faithful. He was still working as a 70. He'd been in church history, so he knew the lies and was okay with it. He's been a lawyer. And so, yeah, that's the only thing I think of, is that Monson being on his deathbed, the church was asking him to do something illegal, probably for lawyerly advice, and promising him a favor to be an apostle once Monson dies. And he said no. And so they got the other guy instead. Or other two guys, because Hales died in October 1st, 2017. It was Hales, right? Yeah, I think so. So, yeah. You need to understand that. Once somebody comes to you asking you to commit a crime, who has power to punish you if you say no, you're trapped. You've become their hostage. And so under those conditions, you have to accept that your life is now destroyed and ruined, and the only hope you have now is to contact the authorities and ask for help. Make sure you get everything documented that you can. Get it recorded, get it on paper, because these guys learned I always want emails. I never want phone conversations. I never want personal one-on-one conversations without any kind of recording of it. Always say, I need to record this for my protection and for yours. And yeah, that's the one thing you know that something's up, when they don't want things recorded. They don't want evidence trails. So just understand, if we all do it together, flood the FBI with all these tips, they'll be forced to act. So go now. tips.fbi.gov